Hi everyone, I'm Yixin Ma, currently a postdoc from Vader Lab, Arizona State University. Today I'm going to introduce our work on the visual analysis of class separations with locally linear segments. The concept of labels is a fundamental building block, widely adopted in machine learning tasks including classification and clustering. To visualize high-dimensional patterns with labels, dimension reduction is an essential approach used to preserve the intrinsic structures in the data while providing a low-dimensional representation. Two properties are typically considered when applying an algorithm to visualize labeled data instances: linearity and capability of supervision. In linear projections, the data characteristics such as covariance, correlations, input-output relations, and margins between classes can be easily illustrated. However, they lack the ability to extract nonlinear manifolds. The nonlinear methods are able to present nonlinear manifolds in a 2D scatter plot, but the embedded results can be extremely difficult to interpret with distortions. Supervised dimension reduction algorithms tend to increase the similarities of instances in the same class. However, the distortion may increase the uncertainty and errors between instances from different classes and affect the understanding of intra-class relationships, especially when inspecting data distributions near the class separations. To tackle the issue of balancing interpretability and distortion of intrinsic structures, we propose a visual analysis approach that enables the exploration and investigation of complex class separation structures. The core idea of our approach is inspired by the development of locally linear models in classification analysis. The complex class separation is characterized on the basis of locally linear separations, which approximate the original separation, and further supports the visual exploration of how the classes are separated from each other. As described before, the motivation of the approach is to use locally linear separations to approximate the entire discrete boundary, which is similar to local linearity analysis in machine learning, like LIME. Here, we use locally linear segments to represent the set of linear approximations. To extract these segments, we first utilize the power of nonlinear support vector machines to construct a set of Cs near the discrete boundary between classes. By using the support vectors from the support vector machine model as Cs, each support vector is further expanded in the local region to generate a linearly separable set. One issue here is that for those regions where the densities of support vectors, that is to say the Cs, are very high, there may be redundant segments with nearly overlapped separating hyperplanes. So a bottom-up merging procedure is adopted to combine local regions with nearly parallel separating hyperplanes. Finally, after the segments are extracted, we calculate the influence of the extracted segments on the surrounding instances. The data instances that are not Cs are assigned to their nearest segments. Apart from the extraction algorithm, we performed a comprehensive survey of existing works on class separation and discrete boundary analysis in machine learning, topological data analysis, and visualization, and finally distilled a list of analytical tasks for analyzing locally linear segments. The tasks are classified into two main categories: macroscopic analysis for providing an overview of the extracted segments, and microscopic analysis for detailed inspection of selected segments. To provide an overview of the segments as well as their relationships, a segment graph is designed to visualize the relationships in the form of a modified no-link diagram. Here, each circular glyph represents the characteristics of segments, such as the number of covered instances and seeds, and the ratios of instances in each class. The edges between segment glyphs represent whether they are the nearest neighbors of each other. Besides the encoded information on the glyphs, more detailed statistics of segments can be observed in the segment detail view, such as data distributions of covered instances and the dominant features that separate the local regions. At the instance level, we employ linear projection and t-SNE projection of all the data instances to provide an impression of the global data distributions. When a segment glyph is selected in the segment graph, the corresponding covered instances can also be highlighted in the projection results. The last module in the framework is the path exploration view. We designed this view in order to provide a more interactive way of examining the connections between neighboring segments, which are also the neighboring local regions. If two segments are not directly connected, which means they do not share any data instances between each other, an interpolation-based bridging method can help build a smooth path between them. For visualizing the exploration path, we propose a visual design where representative scatter plots for each segment are linked together in a zigzag way. Users can use Turing interactions between any of the two consecutive scatter plots to rotate the linear projection result in order to view how the two segments are connected. We present an example of how to analyze the shuttle StatLog dataset. We choose the three classes in the dataset: RADFlow, high, and bypass, and subsample the number of instances into 400 per class. After the dataset is loaded, we find that the three classes are nearly separated in the initial PCA projection result. However, the boundary between the blue and the orange classes is not linear. In the t-SNE projection result, the green class is clearly split from the other two classes. In the segment relation view, we discover two communities in the segment graph. The green instances are mainly in community A, while the orange and blue instances lie in community B. The green segments mostly consist of green and orange instances, indicating that the green class is near the orange class but not the blue one. There is an outlying green segment in the community B containing a group of outliers from a larger green cluster. We further investigate how classes are separated and the decisive features that influence the separations in local regions. For the green classes in community A, we check the most important features for each segment. F5, F6, and F7 are the top features, indicating that these features should be considered when separating green instances with others. Next, we explore the main segments between the blue and the orange classes. For the blue and the orange class, we discover two subgroups in community B with different essential features: feature F5 in B1 and feature F7 in B2. We further explore the transition between the two subgroups. The curved edge between segment 2 and 9 indicates an angle between the corresponding separating hyperplanes. In the exploration path, the scatter plot in the middle shows the joint area of two separations where a clear angle transition is depicted. The transition on the path can also be animated by using the slide bar. To summarize our work, we have proposed a novel approach for detecting locally linear separations in high-dimensional label datasets, and a visual analytics framework for exploring complex class boundaries. In the future, we would like to reduce the computational costs on the SVM models, try different seed generation methods, and integrate our approach in diagnosing classification and clustering models. Thanks for your interest, and we're happy to have questions.